Mahara 16.10. So welcome again to this first online Mahara User Group meeting Australia today. We have scheduled 2 of them for this week to accommodate different time zones and also times when people are available. I'm excited to be showing you some of the new features that we have developed for Mahara and are going to release still this week. As I said earlier, I'll try to monitor the chat a bit so that I can answer any questions. And if you have any problems, please also let me know in there. Okay, so I'm starting the screencast. Give me a second. And almost there. Screen sharing. Oops. Okay. So you should be starting to see my screen now on your computer. It might take a second. Okay. So can you please confirm that you can see the slides? And at least what I see on my screen, it is very grainy. So it might really be good if you do have problems seeing it clearly. It might also depend on the speed that you have. If you go to slides.com/Annotation, which is Christina backwards, and then click on the topmost presentation, which is the Mahara 16.10 is almost here one. And then you'll be able to see a clearer image of everything. So 16.10, which, as I mentioned, we are going to release very shortly. It should come either tomorrow or on Friday. So maybe even being released during the next MUGOZ online session. It's a very special release because it contains a lot of new functionality, especially in regard to working with a competency framework. But it is also the first release after our 10th anniversary. So the first code made it into the Mahara code base at the end of September in 2006. And so we are taking that as our 10th anniversary date and are very excited about being able to also have a new release with exciting new features that will take Mahara further and also introduce new functionality for you to work more easily in different ways with the portfolio and not just as personal learning environment. So that big feature that I'm talking about is SmartEvidence. SmartEvidence is still an experimental feature. But it does have all the basic functionality that we require for it. And SmartEvidence was born out of an idea at the University of Canberra that Shane Nussler and Misty Kirby presented 2 years ago at Mahara Hui in New Zealand. And we had been working with them then, and also Christine Brown from University of Wollongong, to refine the ideas around SmartEvidence and come up with how it could be implemented in Mahara. And then last year we started presenting on these ideas, and Tom, who's also at the University of Canberra, took that even further and added his own touch to the ideas, and then also created more of an offline approach to SmartEvidence, and therefore gave us some more ideas of what lecturers might want to be able to do in the future. Since it is quite a big feature, what we have done is look at the minimum requirements that are necessary to get it off the ground and give you something that you can experiment with, so that you can actually see what it can do, you can explore the potential of it and get started. Because over the past year, I've been talking about it quite a bit, but only with the help of a couple of mock-ups. And that can be quite difficult to actually see how would it work in practice. And so this first iteration of SmartEvidence allows you to do a lot of things already, and then can be taken to a different level later on. And that is up to your imagination and what you'd like it to do. So what does it actually do? Well, SmartEvidence really combines two things in Mahara, namely the student-centeredness, which is integral to our ePortfolio system because it was founded on the principle of a personal learning environment and always having the student in the center of the attention, the student being able to decide what they want to learn, what they want to put into their ePortfolio, what they want to showcase, or what they want to put into a progress portfolio or share with one person but not another. But of course, over time, especially when institutions want to use Mahara not just in isolated areas, but really across the curriculum and roll it out to more students, oftentimes we did get the question, well, what about assessment? And what about being able to structure the portfolio more easily? And that is where the assessment piece comes in, because while we are still very much a personal learning environment, oftentimes lecturers do need some sort of assessment possibilities in there. And so what we are looking at with SmartEvidence is how we can marry up the portfolio aspect of the personal learning environment and the assessment part, and not fitting the portfolio into the assessment, but rather making the assessment part of the portfolio so that it still fits with the portfolio pedagogy and does not just succumb to a tick the box assessment or question assessment, and then you just calculate the sum and you're done. So it is still very much all on the side of the students. And also institutions can decide whether they want to use the feature or not, or turn it on for certain departments at the university, but not others, or leave it up to the students if they want to work with that. And so what we are doing is actually making it possible to represent a competency framework within a particular portfolio with the help of an evidence map. So here you see a competency framework. In this case, it is a teacher registration framework that has been added to a collection of pages. So SmartEvidence always works on the collection basis. And in here you see your standards on the left-hand side going down and your pages going across. You can still click on the pages, see the actual evidence that has been placed on them, and you can then annotate the pages that contain certain evidence and align it to a competency standard. And then with the help of the different icons, see where you have added evidence, that is the round blue circle, where your evidence meets the standard, that is the green tick box, where it doesn't quite yet meet the standard, which is the half circle, or where it doesn't meet the standard at all, which is the red cross. So let's take a look at those in some of those components of SmartEvidence in a bit more detail. This is a page that you will not see in Mahara, but that is how a competency framework is set up at the moment. Because in this first iteration, we focused on learner-facing features rather than an elaborate administrator interface. Especially also because frameworks just need to be set up once and then not anymore. So a framework is very easily set up. The steps for that are already available in the user manual for Mahara 16.10. And you can try putting your standard into this, into a file like that, and then upload it to a Mahara 16.10 site in order to see what it will look like. So once the site administrator uploaded your competency framework, it is available to you. And you can also specify whether every user on the instance should be able to use it, or whether only certain users on the site should be allowed to use the framework. So we can restrict use of a framework based on an institution. Once you have a framework available, a student can go to their regular collection screen where they edit title and descriptions, and they will see SmartEvidence at the bottom. Of course, first the institution will need to have allowed SmartEvidence on their institution, and that's how you control whether certain departments, or if you offer a multi-tenanted site for different organizations, can see SmartEvidence and work with it. So it's a very simple selection drop-down menu, and you can add as many frameworks as you like to the site. You can even upload a revised version and then make the previous version inaccessible to new users so that you can work with different versions of a framework over time, but still allow people who have already started using that particular framework can continue their portfolio using that. So once you've added your framework to a collection, Christine asked, is this for each unit of competency? No, what you're selecting here on the collection is the entire framework, which includes many competencies. If you do have a competency framework that consists of, say, 200 competencies, then you might want to split it up a bit so as not to have such a very long table. But otherwise, you would always include the entire framework. And the other question that you had is, does the framework create the pages for the collection? No, not at the moment. At the moment, you just add a framework to an existing collection. The collection needs to have at least one page, and then the framework file will be visible. What you can do, though, if you do want to set up a collection that already includes a number of pages that your students should have, you can create a collection on the site or institution level, create all the pages, give them names that you want them to have, and then add the SmartEvidence framework to it, and allow your students to copy that collection. And then they will not only get the collection with all the pages, but also the framework directly attached to them. So that's regular Mahara functionality that we have already known in the past. So we utilize that in order to make the creation of SmartEvidence collections easy. At the same time, also, if you want to add more pages to a SmartEvidence collection, all you need to do is add the page to the collection, and then it'll be included directly. So now, once you have added your SmartEvidence framework to the collection, you can associate a page with a standard via an annotation. So if we briefly look back to the evidence map, You see that every page has a little dot next to the standard. And that's what I mean with adding an annotation for a particular page. So we are not annotating a single piece of evidence because we cannot share an individual file or an individual blog post with somebody, but we are adding an annotation to a page. However, of course, a page could only contain one piece of evidence if you wanted to do that. And so once you click the little gray bubble, you will be presented with this modal. So with this window, which allows the student to add an annotation so that they can explain why they believe they want or their evidence demonstrates a particular standard. Only once they've made that annotation can a lecturer actually assess that evidence. You could also set up a SmartEvidence collection for self-assessment. So it still needs the annotation aspect, but then students can evaluate themselves. And a lecturer could still look at it, but only provide feedback. And so when you have that annotation page here, you see where you can add your annotation. And at the bottom, you also see the standard. So you see the standard that has been selected, as well as the description of the standard, so that it's easier to refer back to it. And now once the student has added the annotation, the little gray icon changes to the round blue circle, which indicates to a lecturer that this evidence or this standard is ready for assessment, that they can take a look at it. And so when they go to the map, of course, the map needs to have been shared with, or the collection needs to have been shared with them before in order for them to be able to look at it. They can click on the standard element and then are presented also with this pop-up where they can read the annotation from the student, can do the assessment, and also provide feedback. And currently we have 3 statuses for the assessment, namely doesn't meet, partially meets, or fully meets. And you are entirely free in what you want to call those elements. You can also create a standard in French, which Orly might be interested in. Or you can, in New Zealand, for example, create it in Te Reo Māori, and then everything will be translated. So you will have the interface in the language if there's a language pack, but you can also set up your framework entirely in a different language so that also the assessment is in the correct language that you want your students to work in. Now, once you have added only feedback, then of course you would see the feedback, but if you've added an assessment, then the assessment is shown on the map and the icon changes again, either to red, yellow, or green. Now, that was SmartEvidence. And do you have any questions for that before I go on to the very exciting other new feature, which you can already see here on the screen? I was only able to show you a little bit of SmartEvidence because it is quite a large functionality and already very powerful by you being able to add a competency framework to Mahara, map it to a portfolio which can consist of multiple pages, and then also see the progress visually by using the evidence map. Yes, I'm very happy to read that you look forward to playing with it. At the end of the week, or once we have released Mahara 16.10, that functionality will be available on our demo site, demo.mahara.org. Or in the meantime, if you want to go to master.dev.mahara.org, again, I'm sorry, I can't put any dots in there. If you go to that URL, you will be able to play already with that functionality now, because it does contain SmartEvidence. And every Mahara instance does come with a couple of pre-installed frameworks so that you can get started right away. And you can use those frameworks also to set up your own. We've already collected a few frameworks that I've set up for testing purposes that you'll be able to use, and they are linked from the user manual. Okay, if there are any other questions later on, please feel free to put them into the chat. But now let's take a look at one other very exciting, big new feature for Mahara. It is not so much in the Mahara code base, except for all the technical elements to connect to a mobile app. But Mahara Mobile itself is really exciting to connect to Mahara, so that you can be a bit more independent from a regular computer and work on your mobile device. What Mahara Mobile does is that it is essentially an offline evidence collector for your Mahara site. So if you happen to be out and about in rural areas, or if you work at a hospital, for example, and can't use or can't access the internet, but you might still want to start on a journal entry or prepare a file or an image, video, or audio file that you have on your phone for upload into your portfolio so that you don't forget, you can do that all offline. That functionality was already available for quite some time now through Mahara Droid and Portfolio app. However, neither of these applications have been maintained very much, and they are now also based on quite some older ways of creating iOS and Android applications. And so it was high time to make a change and move to Cordova, which is a platform that allows us to create one mobile app and then roll that out to Android and also iOS devices, and in the future, if all works well, also to others. The big new thing about Mahara Mobile, though, is that it can now be used with external authentication methods. Because a number of you, for example, do work with Moodle or have single sign-on set up, and in those cases, neither Mahara Droid nor Portfolio app could be used because it was only possible to use it with internal authentication. And so what you can do now is really also work with single sign-on and use the application in order to connect to your Mahara site. So I'll just show you a few screenshots of it. This is the first page of where you can set up the connection to your Mahara site. You can also switch between different sites. So you can simply log out of one and then log into another site. So you don't have to have the application set up multiple times. You can also connect multiple mobile devices to one Mahara instance and upload from these. We are not using the old token system anymore, but Aaron upgraded it to use the Mahara Web Services and mobile APIs more, so that there is still a token in play, but not in the same way that we had before, because now we do have authentication as well. If you just want to play with it, you can also just skip the authentication entirely and just see what you can do on the uploading part of it. So when you first log in, you will be taken to your user screen. And there you see the Mahara site that you're connecting to. You see your profile picture if you have one, your name, the URL of the server, and then also a logout button so that you can very easily switch to another Mahara site. The most important aspect, though, is the Add button. And there you can upload files or create journal entries. On Android devices, you can upload pretty much anything that Android allows you to upload, which is not limited to images and videos, but can also be audio recordings or PDFs or text documents or anything else that you have on your device to which you have access. On my phone, for example, I have Google Drive connected and available in an app, and I can even choose documents from there and upload them and use Mahara Mobile directly to upload them, which I thought was pretty convenient. And the Cordova framework that we're using allows us to do a number of those things straight out of the box. On iOS devices, though, once we have that app, you will only be able to upload images and videos because iOS limits you to those two file types, unfortunately. Besides being able to upload a file, you can also add a journal entry. And right now, that might still change until Friday. The journal entry will end up as draft in your portfolio, so that you can kind of just jot down some ideas and then finish them up online if you need more of a keyboard available. And then once you've uploaded your files or created your journal entry, you'll be automatically moved to the pending screen, which is the third screen, the third important screen in the app, where you can see all your pending uploads. Normally, moving from add to pending once you've uploaded your file is quite quick. But in some cases, it might actually take a little bit, especially if the file is very large or if it comes from Google Drive, for example. I've noticed that there's a little bit of lag because the file needs to be fetched first. But eventually, it will show up under pending. And in the tab, you also see how many items you have pending. When you tap on one of them, you can edit the item again. So for a journal entry, you can make changes to it, or for a file, you can change the title of the file, add a description, and also add tags to it. And then you can upload to your Mahara. And the files will be placed into the folder Mahara Mobile Uploads, and the journal entry will go into your regular journal. And that is the functionality of Mahara Mobile as it is at the moment. We've kept it very simple to allow for very easy user interface because we did not want to replicate all of Mahara functionality in the mobile app because you can use Mahara directly on a mobile device. So we were looking for a complementary app to the regular website for things that people would do on a mobile device. So what we have not yet looked into, just trying to anticipate one of the questions that might come up, is how to integrate SmartEvidence with that. Because what we needed to do first was really port the functionality over to the new platform, make sure that we have the authentication working, and also that we can perform some synchronization. So when you're on the user screen, for example, when you swipe down, you will be able to synchronize your tags and also the site name. Christina, does it reduce the size of the photos when you upload them? No, it does not do that. on its own. It also doesn't rotate the image, but that is something that would definitely go onto the wish list for the app. However, you don't really have to worry about reducing the size of a photo on the mobile app, because you can turn that feature on Mahara itself. When you go into the extensions and then look at the settings for the files, because Mahara already has that functionality. However, rotating is definitely something that we would like to introduce, because otherwise a lot of pictures end up the wrong way. So these are two of our very big new features for Mahara 16.10, but that's not all of it. So I'll take you through some more of the new features. I'm not going to list all of them, but really focus on the ones that are bigger or that are more visible to users, or really interesting, especially also in regards to integration. So we have now the possibility to hide deleted comments when it is appropriate. So that means in the past, when you deleted comments, they were always still visible in the comment section, and that could make a page look really strange when you had comment deleted by author, comment deleted by admin, and also there, because you couldn't read the comment anyway. So now if there's no comment following a deleted comment, the deleted comment will not be shown. Only when a comment is deleted in between two comments do we still show that the comment has been deleted, in order to make clear that there might be a piece of the conversation missing. Now to something else, you can also copy the block configuration of tagged journal entries, making it again easier to, or giving you more freedom to set up templates. Also on the site and institution level, because now you can also start or put tags into a block on a template, and then allow your students to copy that block as part of a page. And whenever they tag some of their journal entries with these specific tags, they will show up in the block. So again, they don't need to do so much manually in order to put content into their portfolio. Now to a series of new features that were introduced thanks to PH Bern in Switzerland and also ANU in Australia. We have a number of ways and new features to work with groups. So first one is to duplicate groups, which you can't just do as site administrator, but also as regular group administrator. There is a duplicate button now, which allows you to duplicate the structure of the group and also any pages and collections contained within the group and their artifacts. So this is really nice to set up very similar groups that just need small details changed, because then you'll also take over you retain the layout of the group homepage, any content you have put on there, or any other pages you have created, and then only need to make small changes in order to get it ready for the use by another group. We do not retain forum discussions or group membership, because at the moment this feature is really more for creating groups and not archiving groups. A second feature is that you can now export the group membership of every group on the site. In the past, it was only possible to manage groups you had set up via CSV file using a CSV file, but not any manually created groups. And this is being changed for Mahara 16.10. so that administrators have it much, much easier to do all the administration of any group on the site via CSV file. So that pertains to the group membership as well as the group settings. So you can export everything and then upload changes again to easily switch groups from a live group to an archived group, for example, without having to go into every manually created group. You can also see which users have been suspended or been expired on the user search screen in the administration. And that feature is available to everybody who has access to the screen, in particular staff and administrators. And this is really nice to quickly spot whether you need to worry about that student or not, especially if you do keep them on your site, but don't really have them using the site actively. Another administrator feature that is not really used often, but does bring up quite a number of support queries in the forums, especially when institutions change themes or change something in the navigation bar, for example, is that we now have a clear caches button. And that means that the cache is being rebuilt and any changes that you couldn't see before due to caching on the application has been removed, and the new way of displaying things is displayed to you and all users, and they don't need to refresh their browser in order to have the changes show up. Now again, something more for the administrative side. Simple SAML PHP is now a managed dependency, making it easier to set up single sign-on, for example, via SAML or Shibboleth, or also CAS, which is in use at quite a number of universities in particular. That just really makes things much easier to set up because all the packages come directly with or are required when you install Mahara. And we also have error messages if you are missing certain packages on your server, so that you have all the dependencies available. It will also be possible to auto-create accounts via SAML, so via that single sign-on option, which we had to remove a few years ago due to security reasons, but we're able to bring back now, and that makes it easier for organizations to let users go into their site without having to set up accounts first for them if they are on a multi-tenanted site. Auto creation of accounts did already work if you were the only institution on the site using SAML. In our experience, though, we work quite a bit with multi-tenanted sites, and therefore the auto creation there had to be turned off. And if people were connected with Moodle, for example, and SSO, they needed to log in via Moodle first to create their account, and then they could sign in through the homepage, and all that has now been made much easier. Another rather technical item is that we have a connection manager available, which makes it easier to set up the connections to other systems via web services. And the simple SAML dependency as well as the connection manager were two of the big items that were still outstanding from the Mahara side in order to look into removing the dependency on MNet, so Moodle networking. And what we are looking at right now is if we can already take MNet out of the equation for a number of connections between Moodle and Mahara. So we are looking into a proof of concept of connecting the two, not requiring MNet. In the first instance, that will not allow us to move content, but in the future, hopefully that will also be possible via that new way of authenticating. And then also eventually looking at the Mahara assignment submission plugin, that we can get that working without needing MNet, so that we can truly not rely on that anymore, making it easier for people also to work with the web services when they have Moodle. So if you want to take a look at any of these new functionalities, or wonder what the new things are, and look at the screens and have them side by side when you look at the demo site once it's been upgraded, you can go to the Mahara user manual at manual.mahara.org and take a look, because there we have the new functionality described in the Mahara 16.10 branch. So on the left-hand side, you see all the versions listed, and there is one for Mahara 16.10 and a particular section there also for all the new features, so that you can just jump to those sections of those big new features immediately. And of course, as you know, if you have any questions or would like to contribute to enhancements of any of these features or any others, please feel free to send me an email or contact me on mahara.org, so that we can discuss these with you. I'm also looking forward in particular to anybody trialing SmartEvidence and giving us feedback on it, because we do want to see how it is being used. Are there things that should be changed? And of course, we do have a very long feature backlog already into which we can tap. But I would really like to get some feedback from users, so that we know, are we on the right track with this, and how do students work with it, how do assessors work with it. So I hope you will have the chance to put Mahara 16.10 at least on the testing site, if you're not allowed to upgrade your production server, or better yet, of course, hopefully you'll be able to upgrade your own Mahara site to 16.10. If not, we do also have a live CD available, which I will tweet out in a bit, so that you can take a look at. And I'll actually also put a slide into the presentation here, so that you'll be able to access that very easily. Do you have any questions? Because we still have a bit of time left for anything that you'd like to know about Mahara 16.10 or anything else related to it. Thanks, Orly. I really look forward to you testing it at Cranfield, and also the duplicating of groups functionality, because that was definitely one of those use cases that we had in mind then also when we were able to put that functionality in, because you had set up a bunch of groups and just needed to change a few details. And yes, Tom, really excited for you to actually give it a go as well on SmartEvidence, so that we can see whether it fulfills at least some of your requirements. And I know you had a very particular case there and also wanted to use multiple SmartEvidence maps. So what you could definitely do is either set up different maps for different parts of the semester, or use the same framework across multiple collections. Sorry. Right now, we are not able to display multiple maps on one page, but that could be one of those enhancements. Sorry, so the slides, and I'll put a link to the slides also in the MUGOZ groups, are on slides.com/unitcirc, and currently they're the top slides there. Mahara 16.10 is almost here. And I will provide the link to the slides in our Google Plus group so that you have easy access to it. And we'll also put some other links directly into the text. And sorry again that I can't put any links into the chat. So I'll make a note of that for the presentation on Friday so that I'll have a backup plan there and can share links more easily. So if you're interested in Mahara events in general, I'd just like to let you know that we are going to have a Mahara conference next year in New Zealand again, at maharahui.nz, and the call for papers will go out this week still. So you're just finalizing everything for it, and you will have time until 30th of November to submit a workshop proposal or a presentation proposal or both. And the conference itself will take place from the 5th to the 7th of April. The 5th, that is 2017. The 5th is a more workshop day. And that is a free event. And the 6th and 7th are for presentations. And the event will take place in Auckland at AUT University, Auckland University of Technology. We still have to finalize the actual location, so have to decide whether it's in the city or a bit closer to the airport, depending on whether the new building in Manukau is going to be finished. But nevertheless, we would definitely very much like to invite you to attend the Hui and showcase what you have been doing in Mahara, any questions that you have, or maybe again some feature requests or feature ideas, because in 2014 Shane and Misty proposed SmartEvidence there, had a presentation, and then also talked about it during the community day or Hackfest day. And we started on the specifications for that in a larger group. It made it really nice because we could work together on some